Now, the Sussexes have copped it from comedian Colin Jost on Saturday Night Live. He's joked that one of the conditions of Trump's new trade deal with the UK is that Harry and Meghan have to go back.
There's no way President Trump would accept that deal. He's called Meghan Markle nasty and says he feels sorry for Prince Harry because his wife is a lot to deal with. Trump says he hates the way that Harry dealt with the late.
There's a fine line between fame and farsand. Meghan Markle just got shoved across it in front of a live studio audience. What began as a cheeky jab from Colin Jost during Saturday Night Live's Weekend Update quickly erupted into a cultural takedown. But this wasn't just another late-night dig. No, this was a full-on public reckoning, broadcast on national television, streamed across millions of phones, and echoed by hashtags that trended for days. And if you're tired of the headlines, sugarcoating celebrity spin, then make sure you subscribe now, because what you're about to hear is the brutally honest version. The segment opened with a smirk. As Colin Jost took aim with surgical precision, Meghan Markle says she wants privacy right after signing another Netflix deal, starting another podcast, and launching a new jam brand. At this point, even Princess Diana's ghost is like, "Girl, calm down." The crowd erupted. The punchline landed like a firecracker in a room full of gas fumes. What followed wasn't just laughter, it was a cultural mic drop. Just wasn't done, not even close. He delivered the line that would go viral within minutes and define Meghan's media week. She's not the people's princess. The PR princess, a wannabe Diana with Wi-Fi? It was brutal, bold, and painfully accurate. Social media exploded. Hashtags like #FakeDiana and #PRPrincess surged. Memes flooded. Meghan's carefully controlled image was unraveling in real time, shredded by comedy. But why did this sting so badly? Why did this particular roast set off alarms in Hollywood boardrooms, royal palaces, and Meghan's own tightly wrapped PR machine? Because it struck a nerve. A big one. For years, Meghan has walked a precarious tightrope, positioning herself as a victim of monarchy oppression while simultaneously dominating global headlines, booking multi-million-dollar media deals, and rebranding herself as a spiritual lifestyle guru. She left the palace to escape the spotlight, only to build her own stage. And Colin Jost called it out. Not as gossip, but as truth dressed in humor. The contradiction has always been there, lingering behind every press appearance and brand launch. Meghan wants privacy at Records documentaries. She wants to be seen. As a champion of mental health while leveraging personal trauma for commercial gain, she denounces media intrusion while hiring her own film crews to document every moment of her curated life in Montecito. And it's not just the hypocrisy, it's the performance. Meghan's every move feels rehearsed, every word weighted, every facial expression sculpted for maximum effect. And when Colin mocked her healing journey being filmed from 5 different angles, audiences weren't just laughing, they were nodding. Because it was true. Meghan's content doesn't feel lived in, it feels packaged, and that's where the audience drew the line. But perhaps no line hit harder than the ghost of Diana, because Meghan has long been accused, by both critics and insiders, of trying to step into the role of Princess Diana 2.0. The tragedy, the philanthropy, the global fascination, it's a powerful legacy to echo. But Diana's authenticity was her weapon. She wasn't polished. She wasn't branded, she was raw, vulnerable, flawed on. The world loved her for it, so when Jost joked that even Diana's ghost would be telling Meghan to chill, it wasn't just savage, it was symbolic. It marked the moment where Meghan's attempt to channel Diana publicly backfired. The world saw the gap between sincerity and performance, and Meghan, for the first time, looked like she was on the wrong side of that line. The royal family didn't comment officially. Of course they didn't. But according to UK insiders, the reaction behind palace walls was a cocktail of amusement and vindication. One aide reportedly called the segment predictable but satisfying. Another insider, quoted in British tabloids, said, "It was only a matter of time before someone said out loud what the firm has always known. Meghan's narrative is performance, not principle." Even Hugo Vickers, a close friend of the late Queen, revealed that Her Majesty was so wary of the Sussexes that she never wanted to be alone with them. She feared being recorded, exploited, used. That says everything. And then there's Prince William, the quiet storm in this saga. While King Charles tiptoes around the drama, William is expected to act decisively when the time comes. As one royal watcher put it, William is going to put his handsome foot down. Meghan is going to be humbled and fast. But the fallout didn't end at the palace gates. It spread like wildfire across Hollywood. According to Variety, streaming executives took notice of the SNL takedown, and not in a good way. Netflix insiders were reportedly rattled. One consultant warned, when satire like this lands, it's the beginning of brand fatigue. Meghan, fatigue is real. That's the term floating behind closed doors. Meghan fatigue. And it's more lethal than backlash because it means people aren't just mad, they're bored. They've stopped caring. Even Meghan's usual defenders went quiet. Feminist columnists who once celebrated her bravery now posted cryptic tweets. He wasn't wrong. Influencers who built content around her image suddenly pivoted. Lifestyle outlets that once fawned over her skincare routines went radio silent. That silence was deafening dangerous because when your defenders go mute, the walls start to crack. Meghan's image, once propped up by glowing profiles and curated interviews, is now being defined by someone else's script. And the worst part, that script is funny. That script is trending, and that script might just stick. But it wasn't just Meghan. Colin Jost took Harry down to mocking his role as Meghan's media sidekick, always speaking out against the monarchy. While sipping herbal tea in Montecito, the punchline, "That's not trauma, that's content," the audience howled. And again, the message was clear. This isn't activism. It's monetization. Harry, once the world's favorite royal rebel, is now being parodied as the sad prince who traded duty for docusories, and people aren't sympathizing anymore. They're laughing. The final nail came when Colin turned his sights on the one comparison Meghan's team has always tried to dodge: Kate Middleton. The Princess of Wales, who rarely speaks publicly, rarely grants interviews, and simply does her job without theatrics, has long stood as Meghan's most inconvenient foil. While Meghan preaches empowerment with a teleprompter and 4 camera angles, Kate raises 3 kids, smiles, and somehow wins the world over with a simple wave. Just distilled this public sentiment into a single punchline. Kate smiles, waves, raises 3 kids. Meghan gives a TED Talk every time she toasts bread. That line didn't just get laughs, it got applause, because it was the unspoken truth finally said out loud. Meghan overperforms, overexplains, overexposed saying yet, somehow, never quite convinces. Meanwhile, Kate says nothing and earns admiration by simply showing up. The audience reaction wasn't just humor, it was catharsis. A moment when millions of viewers finally felt seen. For too long, Meghan's narrative dominated headlines, dripping with curated victimhood, exaggerated empowerment, and influencer aesthetics. Now, with one comedy bit, the tide had turned. People weren't just laughing at her. They were laughing because they'd felt this way for years. And no one on TV dared say it until now. And that shift didn't stop with viewers. It traveled through the entire media ecosystem, entertainment outlets that usually bent over backwards. To frame Meghan in a flattering light, we're now cautiously covering the SNL clip if they covered it at all. Editors feared the backlash. Yes, but they also sensed something deeper. The Meghan Markle media halo was dimming. Her control over the narrative was slipping. Even progressive media, once her most loyal base, didn't leap to her defense. The Guardian offered no scathing op-ed about SNL's misogyny. Teen Vogue didn't launch a hashtag campaign in her honor. Twitter accounts that usually jumped to defend her image went silent. And that silence? It's not neutrality. It's abandonment, because when a celebrity stops generating passion, when defenders stop defending, and critics don't even feel the need to yell, that's when the brand is dying. And Meghan felt it. According to sources close to her camp, she was furious about the segment. Blindsided, humiliated. She reportedly called the skit mean-spirited and misogynistic, and began strategizing damage control behind the scenes. But here's the problem. This wasn't a scandal. It wasn't a smear campaign. It was just comedy. And her inability to see it that way reinforced the punchline. A journalist tweeted it best: if Meghan wants to control every word said about her, she's in the wrong country and the wrong industry. In America, if you're in the spotlight, you're fair game. That's how it works. If you sell your life as content, don't act shocked when someone comments on it. And perhaps most damning, Jost didn't say anything false. Every line, every jab, every satirical swing was rooted in real contradictions, real quotes, real projects, real branding. That's why it landed so hard. Because it wasn't exaggerated, it was accurate. And that accuracy is exactly why this moment matters. Because for years, Meghan Markle built an empire on narrative control. Carefully selected interviews, hand-picked journalists, polished Instagram posts. Everything was filtered, framed, flawless. But SNL didn't ask for permission, and in just under 10 minutes, it cracked the whole illusion wide open. So, what now? Well, the aftershocks are already being felt. There are rumblings in Hollywood that some studios are second-guessing projects tied to Meghan, according to Variety. Several media executives admitted off the record that the SNL takedown changed the temperature around her brand. Some used the term overexposed. Others quietly admitted what many viewers already knew. Meghan fatigue is real, and here's where it gets darker. When celebrities become punchlines, it's hard to reverse. Just ask Gwyneth Paltrow, who spent years trying to climb out of the goop parody vortex. Or Anne Hathaway, who disappeared from the spotlight for a time after public overexposure led to mass fatigue. Once the audience turns, once the cultural eye rolls begin, takes years to rebuild credibility. And Meghan? She's at a crossroads. She can't play the victim anymore because the punchlines beat her to it. She can't double down on her brand because now that brand feels like a meme. And she can't rage against the media because her entire empire is built on courting it. Colin Jost didn't just land a few jokes. He ripped the curtain away from a story that had been dressed up in soft lighting and scripted sincerity for too long. And the world saw it for what it was. A show. What's next might be even more brutal. There are whispers that the royal family is inching closer to officially distancing themselves publicly and legally. The push to strip Harry and Meghan of their titles, once considered extreme, is now gaining mainstream traction. A recent poll by the Daily Mail found that over 60% of Britons support removing the Sussexes' royal designations. Even Americans are joining the chorus, flooding social media with comments like, "Send them back. No one wants them here, and we're tired of the show." But while the royal drama simmers, the real battle is being fought in public. Perception. And Colin Jost just flipped the entire narrative with humor sharper than a Buckingham sword. When satire hits truth, it doesn't just entertain, it exposes. Behind palace walls, there may be silence, but behind the scenes, there's vindication. For years, Meghan and Harry weaponized their personal grievances into public performances. From Oprah's tell-all to Netflix documentaries to Spotify flops, they broadcast their side of the story with tearful lighting and moral high ground. But now, with a few lines of comedy, the illusion shattered. And it wasn't just a late-night audience laughing, it was America. Middle-class viewers, former fans, even people who once sympathized with her story. Colin Jost didn't use cruelty. He used observation. He didn't speculate. He quoted, "And that's what made it hurt." Because nothing he said was reflection. The idea that Meghan Markle is not the modern-day Diana, but rather a PR-obsessed influencer, desperate to stay relevant, is no longer a fringe take. It's mainstream. It's comedy fodder. And worse, it's viral truth. When millions laugh at your brand instead of buy into it, the empire begins to crumble. Hollywood knows this. Networks know this. The press knows this. And somewhere in Montecito, Meghan Markle knows this too. And maybe that's why the silence from her inner circle is so loud. Because even they can't spin this one. Even they can't package a witty comeback or a photo op to smooth the fallout. It's too raw, too public, too honest. And in a world of media manipulation, truth has a funny way of cutting deeper than any smear ever could dot. As for Colin Jost, he didn't just roast a duchess, he sparked a cultural shift. One where Meghan's narrative no longer sits in the driver's seat. One where jokes speak louder than press releases. One where public patience with performance is officially gone. This wasn't a tabloid hit piece. It wasn't a hit job orchestrated by royal insiders or angry British commentators. It was a joke that landed with the force of a wrecking ball. And now the pieces are scattered. And maybe that's the final irony. Meghan Markle, the woman who tried to control her image more tightly than any modern celebrity, has lost control of it. Completely not to scandal, but to satire. So what happens now? Will she double down, launching more content, more causes, more confessionals? Or will she retreat, recalibrate, and finally confront the uncomfortable truth that the world no longer buys the brand? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, Colin Jost just did in 10 minutes what years of press coverage couldn't. He pierced the armor. He said what millions were thinking. And in doing so, he didn't just crack the crown, he exposed the act. If you've made it this far, then you already know we don't pull punches here. We don't spin PR, we break it. So don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment, and most importantly, subscribe for more brutally honest breakdowns just like this. Because in a world full of curated perfection, someone needs to tell the story behind the script. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, if it looks like a performance, sounds like a performance, and needs for angles to make a point, it probably is one.